Hello, my name is Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to take a look at stocks. Last time we looked at stocks from scratch. Today we're going to look at how can we take a purchased stock and use our knowledge of stock production to increase the flavor and to make it more flavorful. Then we're going to add some other ingredients to it to turn it into a base for a classic ramen noodles. And you'll have a chance to, there'll be a chicken ramen, but you'll have a chance to add all kinds of different toppings to it and really customize your own ramen. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to do is, before I get started on the stock, is I just want to review our seasoning. And if you remember from before, we made these little sachets. We're going to do the same thing again. I just wanted to show you, just to remind you, you're going to take 2 bay leaves, put it into the sachet. You're going to take a couple sprigs of celery, some dried thyme, and maybe 20 or so peppercorns. And then what we do is wrap them up like this, and we tie them, and they end up looking like a little ghost. I, being an Eagle Scout, I like to do the square knot on here. So I do a right over left, cinch it, and a left over right. And then we just go ahead, and there you go. It's our little ghost. It kind of goes, and then remember, we'll put that in for the flavor. So now the second step is for the mirepoix. And we talked about mirepoix before, being the trinity, being the 2 parts onion, 1 part carrot, 1 part celery. But what we're going to do here, before we actually saute it, we're going to do something a little different, and that is we're going to roast it off. And we're going to roast it off with our protein. So I've already roasted off the mirepoix in the pan with a chicken breast and a chicken thigh on top. And that's going to be our protein that we're going to be able to use into our stock. Okay? Then, once we get our stock going, we're going to have to then add the chicken bone and some other things. And we'll talk about that as we get going. So let's go ahead and get started. And let's start making our base of our stock by starting to saute the roasted mirepoix. So here you can see we have our mirepoix, and we're going to try and just saute it in here. We're going to try and get a little bit of color on everything. And this is really nice because the veggies have an awesome flavor already because they baked underneath the chicken. Okay? So the fat from the chicken, everything rendered through into the veggies. And all I'm trying to do is get a little bit of color on the veggies. Okay? And then in the meantime, I'd like to take a look at our protein. Okay, for our protein, we're going to use the roasted chicken breast and the roasted chicken thigh. And pretty much what you're going to do is just simply take your chef's knife and cut the bone off. And you can do this a couple different ways. Pretty much angle it to what you feel comfortable with. You can probably just kind of start it like this and just start working it with your knife to cut as much of the chicken breast meat away as you can. And then you're just left with the bone. And it's okay to have a little bit of meat on the bone there. That's going to add to the flavor. And then what you can do is take the skin off, just like that, because we'll put the skin into to get some flavor. And then this can be sliced for your protein. And you want to do nice little thin slices because you'll be able to fan those slices out onto your ramen. So we're not going to make it kind of like a shredded chicken soup. We're going to do it like a ramen where the protein is sort of fanned out on top and ready to go. And then when you're done, this goes there. Okay, so now let's take a look at our mirepoix. So we got our mirepoix looking good. Before we add the tomato paste, what I like to do is take the ramen noodle, okay, and I like to put the ramen into the boiling water over here. And you pretty much get your water boiling, put a little salt in it, and then just put them in there. And you're pretty much just going to let them boil for 3 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes, and you use a pair of tongs to make sure they're submerged, and then they're going to go ahead and boil while we work on the rest of it. So now what you're going to do is take your tomato paste, and you're going to put that right in here. And if you remember from before, we want to stir it up good, but we don't want it to burn because the tomato paste will want to do that. And you can see we have all these like little brown bits on the bottom of our pan. That's good. We want those brown bits. We don't want those to burn because they're going to then become bitter. And once we got this sauteed, we're going to deglaze. And we're going to put a touch of the chicken stock in, just like that. And that's going to boil up. And while that boils up, look at that. It just scrapes away. I don't even need to use a fish turner. The rubber spatula just scrapes that away. And look at that beautiful color, okay? That's what we're looking for. That's gorgeous. That's going to add so much flavor to a stock that was purchased, okay? So now we've got the mirepoix in there. We're going to go ahead and throw in 2 cloves of garlic for good measure. And then we have all of our bones here. We've got the breastbone and the bone from the thigh. We'll just throw the skin in there, get a little flavor, because any fat that comes off, we'll be able to skim off the top. We'll get good flavor from the seasonings on there. And then go ahead and put in your 6 cups of stock. Okay, and you're just going to bring this to a boil. Okay, so we'll crank up the heat. Now again, we want to get it to a boil, but as soon as it boils, get it down to the simmer, because it's the same as the regular stock, is that we want it to simmer. And one thing you're going to notice is that even though this is made from chicken, it's going to look more like a brown stock because it has that beautiful coloring of the roasted vegetables and the beautiful coloring from the sauteed tomato paste. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll put this little guy in here. The little ghost will come in and we'll put him in on there. And we're just going to let this simmer, okay? We want to let this simmer for a good 30 minutes if possible to try to get the flavor out. And then when it's done, we're going to strain it. So here we can see our pasta is pretty much done. It just cooks for about 3 minutes. When it starts to come apart like this, you know you're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out. And I'm going to go ahead and strain that. So after we make the stock, the next step is to really prepare our toppings that are go on your ramen bowl. And I have all kinds of things that you'll be able to pick from: mushrooms, broccoli, corn, peas. Some of them you're just going to put in the raw state, and the hot broth itself is just going to heat them up and they're good enough. Some of them you might want them cooked a little bit. So that's where I'll show you in the next stage how we can use the steamer. We have some bean sprouts, we have water chestnuts, I have some nori, some seaweed, sesame seed, we have our chicken as the protein, and then we also have a 7-minute soft-boiled egg. So our stock is starting to simmer. We want to let that simmer for a good 30 minutes. We have our noodles done here. They look great. And again, 3 minutes. You don't want to overcook them. And then we want to take a look at, over here I have a steamer set up. So it has water in the bottom. There's a steam basket. We could actually put 2 inserts if we wanted to. And you can pick what you want. So if you want to put maybe a little bit of corn, maybe you want to steam the corn off, go ahead. You can put that in. If you want some peas. Okay, and then maybe we want to put some carrots and let them blanch off a little bit. And then while they're blanching off, we're going to take a look at the stock. Okay? So once the stock does simmer for the 30 minutes, you're going to want to strain it. In class, we'll use a chinois. At home, you can strain with a strainer or something, just something larger than a colander, because the colander is going to let too much go through. Okay, so and that stuff's only going to steam for a couple minutes. We don't want to overcook it. It's just kind of blanch it. So we're going to carefully take our stock and we're going to pour it through, and we're going to catch all of the goodies there because they were just there to add flavor. The chicken bone, everything's all in there. And then we'll just take the chinois and put it right in there. If while it's cooking you can be straining some fat, or when it's done, if you see any fat, you can just simply take your ladle and put it over top. Okay? And get any of the fat out of there. But here's what I want you to notice is the gorgeous color, okay? I want you to see that color. Everything looks beautiful. It's no longer just, it's still, clear, but it's no longer just that white chicken stock that we made before. It's got flavor. Okay? Now in lab, what we're going to do is we'll cool it in an ice bath quickly, and then you'll get to pour it into your to-go containers, your little deli containers. What we're going to do here is I'm going to pour some into this bowl. Okay. Oh, that's great. And here's where you're going to get a chance to flavor. So we make it like this. It goes into everybody's little to-go container after it's cooled, because you'll be able to take it home and heat it there and eat it at home. You're going to take a taste, okay? So you can take a little bit and see what it's got. Okay, you get the body out of it, the chicken flavor, and then here is where you can decide where you want to take it. Okay? The lessons that we were doing before had to do with kitchen staples and using some of these things. So maybe you want to, I would add the salt last. Okay, but we can put some pepper in. A little bit of pepper. And then the reason I say we add the salt last is that a lot of these flavors that we're going to add have a saltiness as well. Okay, so I'm going to put these here. I'm also going to take a look at my veggies. Okay, they look nice. So I'm just going to take the basket and just drop the basket right onto a plate till I'm ready for it. All right, just like that. And then I'm going to stir up my stock. And again, you'll do this in your individuals. Okay, and then you decide what flavor you want. Maybe you want a touch of soy. So you can put a little soy sauce in there. Okay, that gives you that umami brewed flavor. Maybe you want a touch of ginger. So we have fresh ginger. So we just take it, we peel it, and we just give it a little grate. Okay, so grate some of that right in there. You can really smell that. You could also do a little bit more garlic if you want. You can mince up some garlic if you want more of a garlic flavor. And then the other thing that I have that's traditional here that really gives you that umami flavor is what's called miso paste. And miso paste, we have white, we have red. Miso paste is fermented soybean. The white hasn't been fermented as long as the red. And this gives you that salty, that umami flavor. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there and see what I get. Take that, get that in there. And it doesn't take a lot. And you just want it to dissolve in. And you just keep playing around until you get the flavor that you want. Okay, just make sure that when you do this, you go ahead and make sure that it's dissolved. The last thing you want, okay, is a big chunk of the miso paste. The other thing is, you don't want to mask the flavor of the chicken. We're just kind of learning to blend our flavor profile. So let's try this. I like that. It definitely has some flavor to it. So then what we're going to do is we're going to prepare. So we're going to take a bowl. Now what you'll do is you'll package this, and then at home you'll be able to heat this up. And then once you heat it up, you'll be able to put all your stuff in and heat it up that way. But we're going to start with taking some noodles. We'll put some noodles in there. Okay. There we go. A little bit more. And then once you put your noodles in, then you're going to go ahead, and I like to do the protein because this way it heats it up. So we're going to go ahead and layer some protein there. That looks good. Then we're going to take our broth. And we're just going to scoop it over. That's going to serve to heat everything up. In the microwave, you can put everything together. You can heat the broth up for a little bit and then add the noodles. Okay, so there you go. Oh, that's looking great. And then you can decide on your garnishes. Okay, I like mushrooms, but I don't want to overcook them. So I'm just going to put a couple of them in there raw. All right. Then I'm going to add the green onions. Put those on there. The scallions always look good. And how about, if I can reach them here, some of the chestnuts. Put some of those. And I'll put them over here so they heat up a little bit. I just don't want them to cook. And then what we have left is some nori. A couple bean sprouts for good measure. And then we have all of our veggies that we cooked. So we can put those in. And you can either choose to put them in under the meat, or you can choose to put them along the edges as a garnish, whatever you want to do. You know, again, we're not doing the presentation. We're going to pack a small box to take it home. But you can see all the goodies in there and how this ramen is so much better than just opening up a packet. Okay, the flavor is just not coming from powder. And then the last thing we're going to do for our presentation is we have some sesame seed, and I'll have some nori that you can chop up. So you can put a little bit of nori, some of the sesame seed, and then the last piece of the puzzle is going to be, if you want, we can do some eggs. This was a 7-minute egg, so I'm just going to slice it. And a 7-minute egg means it's jammy, so I'm going to lay one there. That just gives you that classic ramen look. Okay, so let's look at our final presentation. So we have our soup, we have our ramen. It's got the stock, beautiful color, beautiful amount of items in there and garnish. And again, at the end, if you wanted to add salt to your stock, you can, but don't add salt until after you're done with the soy and the miso, because that has salt in it. Okay? So if we set this up a little presentation, I have the bamboo board. We've got a beautiful little glass bowl and an Asian soup spoon. So just in recap, this was a lesson in being able to take a pre-made stock, make it better, okay? Then take a dish that you take for granted, pack it in little packets, and really step it up. Add the proteins, add the fresh veggies, and really have something that tastes good and something you can be proud of. So thanks for cooking with me today, and I can't wait to cook with you real soon right here in Mr. Polk's kitchen.